Witty Ancient Astronaut's Diary. June 24th. While in search of fossils this afternoon in my backyard, have run across a jawbone similar to the one found by Dr. Alfred Zimmer in Ethiopia last summer, which he claimed was 4 million years old, or 40 million. He wasn't too sure about the decimal point. What this may mean, I have no idea, except that perhaps college textbooks need to be rewritten so students can't resell their old ones next year. Plan to take this jawbone home and reconstruct a skull from it. Hopefully. On the way back, must remember to stop at the library and check out 50 Shades of Grey's Anatomy and an unabridged copy of 100 Science Projects You Can Build Without Leaving the Kitchen. June 26th. Have encountered minor difficulties in my work with plaster molds and the posterior portion of the skull. My enthusiasm remains high, however, for in my zeal to unravel the mystery, I inadvertently, but nonetheless brilliantly, substituted red band flour for plaster of Paris. Such accidents in the past, we are told, resulted in many inventions and breakthroughs in science for such men as Edison, Goddard, and Herbert Bloom, a Dolphins fan who once constructed a brontosaurus from one broken tooth, 900 bags of Quikrete, and, as accident would have it, 19 bales of chicken wire. Any day now, I expect success. July 1st. Am very excited, as evidence is mounting that Homo sapiens did not descend from the Australopithecine line as suggested by Dr. Niels Go Bruins Zahorski, but rather from what I am calling the Catalus minoris family, a small extinct species of cow. Am basing my conclusions on the shape my model skull is taking and the fact that I've unearthed an unusually tiny head counter, perhaps used at the narrow opening to a pre-Pleistocene soccer match prior to wholesale herd slaughter by Neanderthals as they stampeded. That this artifact is cryptically engraved with the words Saturn Turnstile Company, I have furthermore come to interpret as proof of life on other planets. August 6th. Having completed the skull, with enough left over to bake a few cookies, I took my evidence before a tribunal of obese paleontologist/Blue Devil fans whose criticism took the form of pitchfork jabs. August 7th. Discouraged by my rejection yesterday, I developed an appetite for junk food, and in sheer frustration, I spent the day waiting in 30 different fast food restaurant lines, whispering, "People are cattle," and trying to show them the skull. Always, when my turn to order came, I purchased one French fry, and then went to the back of the line to take note on how the servers say, "Chicken or beef?" along with the ever-popular, "You want ketchup with that?" August 8th. As there's still no word from the Nobel Committee on my nomination, nor from the principal of Bronx Elementary as to whether my theorem will be allowed voicing, I dragged my wounded ego to a sports bar on a leash and force-fed it Guinness until the conversations of several co-eds suddenly shifted from Joe Mauer's ass to my charnel house breath. Because fortune generally favors the bold in such dives, I decided to sidle over to where the action was, at the other side of the room, and as a method of breaking the iceberg, introduced my friend Catalus minoris. My theories were put to the test when just then the Hulk appeared and explained his relationship with the Vixens present as something similar, if only in appearance, to an episode of Fox Sports After Hours on the Esquire network. Although his patting me on the head, along with a well-meaning admonition to cheer up, only managed to dislodge several vertebrae, I did aggravate the situation by defining an optimist as a hockey fan who regards his half-empty brain as half-full. Consequently, I was given a free remedial crash course on Murphy's Law. 6 hours later, regaining consciousness at the request of a wet mop, I was told by Lars the barkeep that Bruce either lifts Hummers with his teeth at monster truck rallies for a living, or he's studying ballet. Which one seems more likely to you? August 10th. Had a nightmare full of evidence last night. Dreamt I was given free lifetime subscriptions to those bastions of science journalism, the National Enquirer, Slam, and UFO Abductions Illustrated. Lashed to a chair, however, I was force-read Time magazine articles instead. Army recruiters who target little leagues, or NFL to put cameras in all helmets, and helmets don't prevent split personalities. My eyelids were then stuck open by crazy glue, and my head clamped in a vise in front of a TV playing Monday Night Football reruns through Thursday afternoon. August 23rd. Today decided that science is wonderful, and hope one day to be able to change the world, or at least to make my bed so that Dad can bounce the last surviving silver quarter from his stolen collection on it, in hopes he won't bring out the cat of nine tails from his closet as promised and whip my backside into raw hamburger with it, like Jesus did to bookies in the temple. Diary Entry 2. Zip Daddy. Before you pick up a dozen or so jagged stones suitable for removing the monstrosity I see in the mirror every morning, please take a moment to consider how I and my invisible, invincible friend Walter got to this state of damnation. Also realize that I have it on high authority that my ambulance driver will favor the scenic route. In your own case, you probably had a father who tossed a ball with you, or at least took you to games at some point, or maybe, when you went to high school, you played athletics, went to sports bars, and either ogled the cheerleaders or became one. That's not quite my memory of childhood events. The school I attended was a strict religious academy, where my favorite story was, of course, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It's about a guy who likes to daydream as an escape from a dreary life. My real life was nothing like Walter's, and the word dreary just doesn't cut it in describing time spent listening to guilt-drenched hellfire sermons that segued, handcart style, into distrust of everyone outside the electrified fences. Take a moment here to imagine me washing jockstraps after school at the minimum wage in order to pay for this privilege, while many of my classmates bonded in extracurricular activities like intramural firewalking or cow pie hurling. Now consider that these bronze gods and monsters were the sons of professors, and so exempt from having to pay tuition. Any time they spent off the field was either for bully training, dating, or shopping for designer polo shirts. Understand where I'm coming from yet? Okay, I didn't think so. So let me describe Pop. His hair was the color of burnt kangaroo fur, and his booming voice might have put another crack in the Liberty Bell. When he looked at you tipsily with his bulbous brown eyes, you got the impression he was mentally fitting you for an anvil hat. Pop didn't care for pop culture. Pop's culture consisted of nonsensical ramblings on every subject imaginable, kind of like George Carlin, but not as generous. What I remember most about dear old Dad is that we always fasted on Thanksgiving Day. That's feasted with one less E, or the opposite of eat. His reasoning went along the lines of starvation being in honor of those who have nothing. Not that Pop fooled us. We were painfully aware that we were the ones who had nothing. He was just too cheap to buy a turkey. What earned him the nickname Zip Daddy in the first place? I'm mentally blocking the memory, but I can tell you that even after he died, whenever we needed to describe any situation that involved the utter absence of luck, we'd say something like, I had 3 numbers on the lotto, but when the 4th ball dropped, I came up zip, Daddy. Pop's favorite phrase was, why me? It's the same question we asked ourselves. Because that's another thing. Not only didn't Pop know much about pop culture, he didn't know how to train us to become sports addicts either. Instead of tossing a ball with me, for example, he would just drive me around asking, what is human consciousness anyway, of various traffic lights, looking up at them swinging up there over the middle of the road, hoping for some epiphanal answer. Of course, if Pop had been an astrophysicist or philosophy professor, I might have followed in his shoes, and by now I'd have tenure. Since he was just a nutty cab driver, here I am instead in middle age, and all I really have to show for it is 3 drawers full of mismatched socks. Anyway, now you know why I've been ostracized about my lack of knowledge or interest in sports ever since. Am I suggesting Zip Daddy was cheap? Not at all. You have to have at least a few coins in your pocket to be cheap, and Pop thought it was more important to have something to say. He just didn't know what exactly. Neither do I. Although I intend to say it anyway, despite the realities of the zombie book marketplace, the full Nelson headlock of the NCAA, and the fact that better odds in achieving success can be realized by entering the Kentucky Derby with a plow horse.